1998. The sky is slate gray in the eastern sky and in need of a storm. Trans man stands, age 5, 3 feet tall, 160 pounds. Masculine attire, slacks, jacket on a square body. His shoulders thick from previous years of weight training, stomach flat. There is a storm within her soul. He is on the borderline of decision. Chapter 2, 1948. Trans man is age 5, 3 feet tall, 50 pounds. Wears purple and orange t-shirt over his flat little child chest, blue jeans and sneakers. He plays with toy soldiers, miniature trucks. Has an erector set with which he creates metal buildings and a chemistry set containing Bunsen burner, test tubes and vials, and disdains his girl toys. A doll and carriage sit idle, dusty in the living room of their material comfort, able middle-class home, never even having been removed to either trans boy's bedroom nor to her playroom. Chapter 3. During my childhood in the late 1940s, I actually thought for an interval of time I had to become a boy or I would die. God turn me into a boy was my ongoing pubescent prayer, and I can't remember how old I was, 7 or 8 maybe. Psychiatrists suggest it's typical of abused children to forget their childhood. I had a bad abused childhood at the hands of my mother and have blocked out a lot, but I remember it was my constant daily and nightly mantra at that time that I must grow a penis between my legs miraculously, instantly, must wake up one morning having been changed into a boy. An anger so great inside that my heart wanted to burst out of my chest and my throat turned dry. Now, 40 years later, at the millennium 2000 AD, when society is on the cusp of the potential of an individual to be anything they choose, I'm still not sure if I will become that boy, but it is urging me onward still, through the years, through my tomboy stage, my butch stage, my hard butch years, my trying and failing to pass for a man, my male identity. In the 1940s in Chicago, Illinois, there was no visible queer movement. The army to come was still composed of foot soldiers scattered here and there across the broad plains land of America. In any African American community or white, you could see visible gays, transgender, sprouting up between the normal school children like strange new vegetables in a garden. Though thoughts were formulating inside my child head that time of the utter shame it was to be a girl. Girls would soon grow up to be women, and women, females, were victims. They were second-rate, less important. They had to obey a master, some man. In picture books about foreign countries, they were shown walking 5 paces behind their husbands with their heads bowed, veiled, and being led by him like a sheep or a cow. Was it because of the misogyny in the world, that its hatred of women, that I had to be a boy? This burning desire to change, to reassign my gender? This shame about my femaleness was killing me. My lack of identification with my mother's role, she, about that time, was showing more pronounced symptoms of the mental illness which was going to destroy our home and her life. Did this make me turn to identify with my dad, who was my friend, who loved me and was a loyal parent until he died? Or is it inherited, like scientists are beginning to believe, a genetic circumstance which had already been created before my birth, that I was created gay or transgendered in the womb and that these early dysfunctions of my home life only drove me to be out, obviously queer, in a bold, more significant way since I had nothing to lose. It's been so long ago and such a bad, bitter road that I can remember little of my roots. I was born into a black bourgeois family of very light-skinned people. My mother and her parents of African descent, and my father of a different nationality, south of the border, Latin. Racism surrounded us. Another unpleasant picture. Girls in my neighborhood on the south side worked hard at housework, were forced to help their mothers. My best friend playmate Diane was given an incredible workload. We were age 10. Diane did her family's ironing, laundry, and scrubbed the kitchen floor on her knees. I didn't have to do any of this because of my mother's mental illness, incapacitating her from standing guard over me. In fact, my father did all the cooking, washed dishes, sent our dirty clothes out to a laundry that washed, ironed, folded, and bundled it, and once per week a maid came in to dust and vacuum. Definitely I was not a woman. I never fit that description. Female, yes, because that's the biological body to which I was born and have been living in this state all my life. So the way I look at it now, I must be the final extension of being butch. Trans man, not quite. Definitely not male man, definitely not woman, ugh. The idea of myself being a woman is torture to me, but the idea of loving a woman has been with me also since the beginning. To have a woman's touch, a woman's love, from the earliest age I can remember. I dressed in colorful t-shirts, blue and red stripes, orange and purple, yellow and brown, short sleeves and long, blue jeans with pockets of stuff, model airplane parts, marbles, glue, pink bubblegum stickers, sticks, baseball cards, cap guns and their play ammunition, red paper rolls of caps with small brown indentations of explosive powder, precious kid junk, socks and gym shoes. I was a total tomboy and kicked and screamed when my mother and grandmother tried to put me in a dress. My first passing as a boy that I can remember doing on purpose was when I tucked my long hair ponytail up under my cap and cultivated some strange boys who didn't know me, who were passing through the neighborhood on their way home from grammar school. We played ball, did boy stuff. I had fun being one of the boys. Once, when I stood in the backyard behind our chain-link fence as they were going past in the alley, we decided to show our pee-pees to each other. I looked at theirs, but I was in a fix, having nothing to show them but my hairless girl mound with its slit. Show us yours. No, I can't. I hemmed and hawed on the other side of the fence. Your mama told you not to, huh? They wiggled their little finger-sized dicks on their other side of the fence. I managed to bluff my way out of that situation, and we played together several more weeks, until finally one fateful day, while roughhousing, my knit cap got pulled off my head and my hair tumbled out. There was a shocked silence as the boys stared at me in disbelief while I jammed my hat back on, pushing the hair back under it in shame. Suddenly they were terrified. It's a girl! A girl! And they ran away down the street. I don't remember seeing them again. After that unsettling incident, I was content just to be myself, a tomboy, not a real boy, and to play baseball and football in the alley behind our house with a gang of boys I cultivated for this purpose of playing sports, which all my little girlfriends hated. Yet oddly, me and the boys weren't close friends. It was still girls who were my pals. Diane in particular. We shared adventures when she was temporarily free from her burden of housework. Her and other girlfriends from school, we were closer than any boys. We ran through the neighborhood and spied on grown-ups, read comics, roller skated, and rode our bicycles together on childhood trips. When I first realized I was a lesbian, that is, me being encased in my female body, lusting for other females, which made me, by scientific definition, a lesbian, that instantly became my great all-consuming focus, to have sex with women. That and being an artist. This seemed to solve any questions in the sex department. I didn't realize it wasn't just sexual preference that was the issue, but gender identification. Also, few people were speaking about that then in 1957. Christine Jorgensen was going to be the first to break the ice. For the next few years I was, as usual, wearing boyish clothes and taken for mail on the streets, painting with oils on canvas and composing poetry on an ancient manual typewriter, an Underwood, nights and by day still in high school, seducing my straight girlfriends because I couldn't find any queers. Chapter 4. In the 1950s, it was books like Journey to a Woman or Odd Girls Out and Twilight Lovers I read discreetly, passed from one tan, yellow, or brown hand to the other, secretively around the kitchen table at my girlfriend Carol's parents' home on the west side of the Black Ghetto. That showed the misunderstood world of women who love women. This journey to self-understanding, understanding of a sexual preference so confusing in the 1950s, which has now become for some of us here in the 1990s a journey to the man within. As a Butch Dyke in the FTM Butch Conference says eloquently, we are constantly pushing new frontiers. Back in 1958, we slapped cards down on the kitchen table in cutthroat games of spades or poker, dressed in slacks, man's shirts, boots, short-haired, drank beer and gin or bourbon, a very butch and drunk lesbian. I was becoming an adult. With a gang of my lover Carol's older straight male friends, we rode in second-hand Jaguars and Volkswagen Bugs, up to the north side to beatnik nightclubs in the artist section of the city, and me with a glass of gin in my hand, cruising for women under lowered eyebrows. Chapter 5, 1960. Once, when back at home living with my dad again in his new place, separated from my mother, having returned to recover from ill health due to poverty and subsequent malnourishment, I stayed up late watching a TV host talk show, one of the first in those early pioneering days of TV. Two tranny men came on for a brief 10-minute segment. All I can remember was these short, weird-appearing men, apparently male, dressed in suits and ties. One made this statement: as females, we had it stuck to us. Now we'll stick it to them, meaning some hapless woman. How brazen this sounded, embarrassing. It was one of the most sexual references I'd heard on TV back in those more censored times. Remember feeling embarrassed by them, also knowing how much I was like them, and thinking how many worlds away we were from each other. They had traveled on down the gender line so much further than I had, and feeling overwhelmed, how could I ever pass myself off as a total man, and being angry at this derogatory remark about women. Feeling embarrassed by this man-woman weird hormone-enhanced duo flickering on my father's TV set, because they'd stepped out and gone so far from any norm, and suddenly feeling a chill run through my blood, at how close I was to being one of them myself. 1961, out on my own in the streets again. Got a small part-time job as a janitor in a theater which features strippers and runs porno films in between the live sex acts. Trans man begins to have stripper girlfriends. They are professional sex workers and teach the teenage trans men advanced techniques in lesbian lovemaking. It is a very macho of me to pull lovers out of this burlesque theater where I work. These are supposedly straight sex objects, fleshy pinup models, and in the hurricane's eye of lustful attention of the male stagehands, manager, customers, and owner. Lisa calls me Daddy, and this excites the hell out of me. She treats me like a man, and I love it. Thinks of me the same as all the tricks, customers, suitors, and boyfriends she's had just out of the fact of her being straight and not a lesbian. Chapter 6, 1967. Young trans man, age 23, stands beside the windows of his flat in a Victorian house, a recent arrival to the city of San Francisco. It is a condemned building. A pile of men's suit jackets lays on a mattress on the floor, which passes as a bed. She has just returned from shopping at a thrift store, the Goodwill, across town in the Mission District. A powerful feeling comes over him. He has always worn butch clothes, but none so severe as these. He has slipped his muscular shoulders into one jacket, a physique form fit, working out from karate training and calisthenics since age 15. Whips it back off in a sudden inspiration. Walks across the painted floor boards to a dresser drawer and gets an ace bandage, relic from a prior karate injury. He often had to bind up his knee or tape his toes. Winds the beige elastic cloth around his chest. In minutes, his contour is transformed. Medium-sized breasts now flattened into his chest give the appearance of a buffed chest of a gym. Now, trans man strides to the mirror again, whips the jacket back on, and looks. A near male image of himself looks back at him from the mirror. This image ignites a fire between his legs. He begins to strut back and forth across his living room. The broken pieces of mirror lean against the wall of the ragtag flat, catches his poses. He bows, flexes muscles, turns profile left, right, grimaces, smiles, smirks, snarls. His short hair lends itself perfectly to this male look. He combs it into a different style. His flat, bound-down breasts obliterate one more trace of the feminine. He's already so masculine. Amazed at the transformation of himself, caught inside the scrap of mirror, from a slender young dyke female to a slender masculine young man. He is hot, horny, excited by his new persona. He skips down the stairs of the rotting Victorian and struts out into the street as a passing man, walking himself into a cold sweat up and down many blocks, male to all who see him. 7. I walked the streets in drag off and on for several years, like a deaf mute, not communicating because my high-pitched voice might reveal me to be female. By a rough sign language of my hands, painting at this or that item behind the counter in a store or a drink from a bottle in a straight tavern, while waving my money in the air, with a smile on my face, I'd raise my hands, greeting, hello, goodbye, all without uttering a word. But occasionally, by accident, I would emit a low, guttural gurgle as I hastily stopped words all ready to spill out, dead in my throat.